I'm gonna talk about some stuff right now, guys. It's gonna be a bit of a rant slash event thing because I was gonna make it like a twit longer about it and stuff, but I felt like it would just be better to just kind of just like talk about it. I don't know exactly where to start, but I'll go. Okay, I'll start kind of where at the beginning, where it was like. So I started playing SPL in season 5. No. I started playing technically in season 3, but it wasn't like I didn't really actually start playing. And then season 4 was when I I think it was season 4, but basically season 5, right? And in season 5, season 6, I would say that my favorite year ever was probably like season 6, and that was like before COVID and everything, and that was the first year we had like LANs and stuff, and it was amazing. You know, I enjoyed it a lot. But it was also the first year that they removed the region versus region like aspect to the game. And I don't know if you guys watch, probably a lot of you guys do, but I don't know if you guys watch other like esports and stuff like that. Like the best example I can think of is probably the most recent thing was Valorant. Is like how important region versus region is in these other esports. I don't know if you guys saw like Latin American versus like the Sentinels, or saw just like EU versus NA and the shit talk that came with that, and like how hype it made the matches. I just think that like that is like crucial to an esport, at least from what I've seen across esports. And like the more and more like the past few years that we've played with this like combination of everything and not having regions in other places, it's made everything just feel like so much less hype, and it's making the tournaments feel like pretty lame. I don't know. Like for example, we've played our team the past 2 years has played the Bolts and the Titans in like the quarters and semis, or quarters, finals, whatever, semis, finals. The past 2 years, I think we've played both of them a total of like 10 times. Like literally the same matchup every single phase, every single year. We don't play. We don't get to like experience. You don't ever see like a combination of metas anymore, because there's no like, you know, teams screaming from EU versus the teams from NA. I think that the fact that they like dissolved all the region versus region in Smite has been really bad for the game. I think it's been pretty bad. The only thing that I can say is that as far as like salary goes, it's a lot better, because if you're going to have 8 teams in EU and then 8 teams in NA, or even 6 teams in both regions, that's going to be a lot of money that Hi-Rez has to pay to each region individually for each like person on the team. So that's kind of unsustainable, but like there's got to be some way to like fix it. And plus, like, who knows where if we had kept that region versus region, who knows where Smite could be today if we, you know, had that hype for the tournaments and stuff. And we talked about this. We talked about this with people in the past that worked at Hi-Rez, and it was kind of like they didn't see the value in it. And it's hard you can't like quantify how important it is, because, you know, it's just like, it's something that drives hype big time, but it's not like you can put an exact number on it. So in my opinion, I think it's really, really crucial for the game. Like, for example, I think it was Shazam or somebody. It was somebody on Sentinels. They tweeted something after they lost to Latin America, or maybe somebody said like some shit talk thing. And within like 5 minutes on Twitter, it had 40,000 likes. And like that kind of just shows it drives so much like interaction to the scene. If he had just tweeted something like, "Hey, great games, see you guys later," but it had nothing to do with like the rivalry, like it would not have mattered at all. It probably would have gotten like 1,000 likes in 10 minutes or something. You know what I mean? So I don't know. When I saw that, I was like, this is like I thought that like when I was watching the tournament, I was like, imagine how hype it'd be if like stuff like this still happened in Smite. But of course it doesn't. So that sucks. And that kind of just goes into like the league format the past few years as well. I think most SPL players have complained about it a lot. Like, and I just mentioned it as well. Like, we've played the same teams every single like playoffs. Like there's no switch up. The format's the same. You go into quarters unless you have a bye, then you play semis, then you play finals. And it's like the same thing. You're playing for the same thing. There's no change of like scenery, nothing like that. And it just gets super repetitive. And like we won 2 out of 3 things last year, and then we won the beginning of this year, and it's like nobody remembers that, because those wins aren't like, they're not valuable, really. Like they're really not that valuable. Like I saw after we lost, Like people are like, oh, this team needs to split up. They've been trying for 3 years. This team sucks. Blah blah blah. It's like we've gotten second place at the past 2 worlds, and we've also won like 4 out of the past like 8 events. But none of the events matter. They just don't matter. So that's why people say it. But anyway, the format is just like it's like rough. Like we haven't played. For example, we'll just take Leviathan since they just won Worlds and they're GOATs and I love them. We have not played that team at a tournament once in the past 2 years. Not a single time have we played Leviathans in the past 2 years in a tournament. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 99% sure. Isn't it pretty crazy that you could, like, one of the best teams in the SPL the past 2 years, as well as us, like obviously we're one of the best teams as well. We didn't play each other a single time. You say that happens in every sport though, but that doesn't happen in esports. Everybody in esports, people play like basically everybody, and it just makes it more fun. So even if it doesn't happen in regular sports, then maybe they should change something because that's a bad thing, I think. But so yeah, that kind of just shows that the format is just like there's obviously something wrong with it. I'm not sure if they're planning on like changing that, but I really wish they would. You know, the last time we played them at a tournament was I think Season 6 Worlds. And that was when they had to have Haddix sub in for Yarkor because Yarkor couldn't make it. So we play him throughout the regular season, yeah. But it's just there's just not a lot of variety when it comes to the games. No pun intended, because we do play the Kings and they do have Harry. But yeah, there just needs to be more like switching up of the matchups, or have double elimination tournaments so that you have to play multiple teams and multiple days and you don't just play 3 games and you're done. I personally think when you're at Worlds itself, when there's an event, like say you're at the Cobb Energy or you're at like DreamHack or whatever, and there's like an actual event and you're playing in front of a crowd, I think single elimination is actually fine. Especially like considering they have to rent out the place and it's going to cost, like, even to just get 2 more days at like one of those places, it costs probably like $1 million. Like that is understandable. I think single elimination in those is fine, but like for these playoff events, or just like if we're gonna have Worlds and like in the studio without fans, like I think these should be double elim. So yeah, so the league format has been pretty rough the past couple of years, and it kind of is draining my motivation for the game a lot of the time. And then also this year, like I said, this is a bit of a rant. There's a lot of positive things I have to say as well, and I'll say those at the end. So it's kind of like good news, bad news. You guys are getting the bad news first, okay? And then also this year, what was I about to say? Oh, franchising. What are your guys' opinions on franchising this year? Because I personally think the franchising has been kind of a failure. I think the only other 2 esports I know that have done this. The only other 2 esports I've known that have done this are Overwatch and COD. Overwatch, dead. And COD is like very quickly dying. If you guys are keeping up with the COD scene at all, it is like, it's in a really bad spot. Obviously the game itself can't die because COD is like one of the biggest games ever. But like, but the problem is these are 2 much bigger games backed by much bigger companies with a lot more money. And they're still messing up the franchising. So I just don't exactly see the point of it. And when it comes to Smite, it needs to be like branded for us, and like I'm sure people are putting a lot of effort into it, and I really appreciate it. But some of the social media posts and stuff like that just don't represent us at all. I don't know. I'm not saying it shouldn't be our job to be like social media people, but I feel like it should try and represent us a little bit more, and like maybe get more into like our minds and like our day-to-day lives and stuff like that, instead of it just being kind of like a one-size-fits-all for each team. But that's not that big of a deal. I think for the most part, I just don't know if franchising itself is what we should be doing. But I think it's not the worst thing ever. It's not too bad. And like the problem is, I think esports in general are like trying to make it. They're really trying to make it like real sports, but it's just I feel like that's not sustainable or even realistic. Like especially for orgs. Like what do they say? It's like barely any orgs are actually profitable. So yeah, that's not that big of a deal. But the last thing I wanted to talk about was just like game balance over the past couple years. I think for the most part, game balance has been pretty awesome actually, and like what Ajax and the crew has done with certain gods and like mixing up the game and the items and stuff like that has been pretty good. The only problem I've had is like, for example, this past Worlds, Erling and Hell are still being played. Like we literally had to deal with that all year, and it's the most unfun thing to play against, and we're still having to play against it in like the world's finals. Just healers in general, honestly. Like, and Yamoja, yeah. Yamoja is one of my favorite characters, but that character is just ridiculous. And it's just healers in general. And something I thought about was like the global anti-heal debuff is actually like it has been pretty good for healers, but it also has buffed them in a way, because one of the best ways to deal with healers in Smite is to have self-sustain and to just heal yourself. So whether that's like lifesteal or playing characters, like the best example I can think of is like Amma, right? Like Amma has been gutted by the fact that you get less healing out of combat. Like, so if she wants to send it to her tower when she's getting bullied in lane in certain matchups, ooh, voice crack, when she's getting bullied in lane in certain matchups, like, and she wants to send it to her tower and spam her one, like, she gets less healing from that just as a product of healers being OP. It has nothing to do with the fact that her self-sustain is broken. It's the fact that, like, you can walk out of combat with hell and group heal everybody for more than, like, people are doing. And you'll, like, watch these games and you'll see that hell has, like, 28k healing, which is, like, 2 or 3 people's total damage combined by the end of the game. Maybe realistically, like, 2 people's damage at the end of the game. And in Smite, dude, I just think that that is so fucking horrible. Like, Smite is a game based on skill shots and hitting your abilities and feeling good for, like, being skillful with your aim and, like, you know, mechanics and all that. And then it's immediately negated by somebody just clicking a button on their team whenever they, like, walk away. And I just feel like that has no place in Smite. And, like, I'm doubling down. Right now, I'm doubling down. I do not care if you think healing is fun in Smite. I actually genuinely think that they should remove group healing from the game. You should not be able to group heal. I think you could take it out of the game, and it would not be hard to balance. It would be good for the game, and I just feel like it would be good. Like, take away Chonga's 3, take away Hell's 3, take away Hell's 1, take away Afro 3. Just add different things to these abilities, make them do different things, and just take it out of the game. I personally think it would just be better for the game. I mean, obviously, there's these, like, people that are, like, in love with Afro. Honestly, probably in and out of game, but, like, and, you know, characters like Hell and stuff like that. And I think, you know, that would just have to be a necessary sacrifice. You know, it would suck, but it's kind of like how I am with Persephone. Like, I loved Persephone before, and then they took it out of the game, and now it's like, well, okay, that's unfortunate, but we move on. Disagree, learn to play around it. I mean, it's just getting to the point where it's like, well, let's just maybe healers will be balanced if we add 70% anti-heal out of combat. Maybe that will do it. 'Cause, I mean, it comes from, like, there's a lot of things. I'll never get over Persephone rework. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Nika. I mean, there's, like, much more deep-rooted problems with, like, all this, because, like healing, it comes back to, like, tanks and tank damage and how you can build tanky and still do a lot of damage. And then it's, like, really hard to balance around that because 80 carries come late game will one-shot tanks, but, like, in the mid game they can't do anything to tanks, even though, like, they do 1 billion damage and are, you know, it's just like there's a lot of stuff when it comes around that, but for the most part, I would say the game is pretty balanced. I just think that there's been some slow changes to certain very frustrating parts of the game, and I think that was, like, kind of one of them. And, like, you kind of saw it at Worlds, like, healers still being played and still kind of ruining the meta. And I just think that those are some unfortunate things that have happened the past couple years, especially, I mean, the game balance wise this year. But another thing when it comes to game balance is, like, Warriors Axe. I mean, the Bluestone meta at the beginning of this year was so good, and then we were basically forced into building Axe every single game for the past 3 months. And we kind of built Axe last year with Warriors Blessing. So we're kind of just building the same thing we built for the past 2 years when we already had a perfect example of how the meta could be with Bluestone at the beginning of the year. And that didn't get changed. In fact, after it was a problem, after Axe became so, like, good, they changed it to give it power, and now it's even better than it was before and even more mandatory. Before, you could actually maybe get away with going something else, but now you literally can't. And they even buff Sigil so much that you would want to build it, but you just can't. It's impossible, or you'll lose the lane too hard. So that was a little bit unfortunate as well. And I just think that some of these changes just need to be quicker so that you can actually, like, twist the meta up in the SPL or in the Pro League so that, like, it's not just the same thing every day. Yeah, that was true. The AMC change was pretty insane. I remember we talked about it because I think we went over the patch notes on stream when that happened, and we were talking about it. It was like, you didn't even. This is a perfect example of Hi-Rez saying they just want this character to be good. Because what you would ideally do with a character like AMC, if you wanted to buff him slightly, is if you wanted to give him give his ult prot shred, you would start at like 10% or 15%, and it would scale up maybe, and you could start there, go 10 to 30%, and then at least late game, you know, it'll slam you for 30%, and you know that's pretty strong. But at least it's not like throughout the whole game. But that was like a perfect sign of like just forcing a character. You want them to be meta, and that's fine because I actually like big sweeping changes to bring characters into the meta and stuff like that. But that one specifically was a little bit frustrating because you just get slammed by a stinger and then get one shot and all your prots are gone. But yeah, so like some of this stuff is unfortunate because it was just kind of because of COVID. Like COVID kind of did mess things up over the past few years, or the past couple years, and that's obviously not Hi-Rez's fault at all. And you know, who knows where we'd be right now if we had been playing in person this whole time and had events. And that's kind of what like I'm looking forward to most next year. We don't really know, but like I really, really hope there's a live event next year. I'm like really crossing my fingers, whether I'm playing or I'm not. But it's I just think that that's mandatory. I think for the game. Like I said, that was more of a rant, so I was talking about like negative stuff. But there is a lot of positive things as well. Like for example, I think the casting team, the past few years, ever since I've been in the SPL at least, and the people I know and the people I've worked with and talked to, and the people I watch and listen to, like the casting team has been amazing. I think like Smite's casting has always been and still is like one of the best casting teams of any esport I watch or know of. So that's an amazing thing to have when it comes to Smite and the Pro League. And like I said it before, but Season 6, when there wasn't COVID and we did play in person, despite the fact that the region versus region had been disintegrated, you know, that was the most fun season I've ever had. That was like, obviously I didn't play in like Season 1, 2, 3 or anything like that, so I can't exactly speak to those, but like Season 6 was a ton of fun, and we didn't even win. Like we didn't win a single thing. I mean, we won throughout the whole regular season. We were like first place most of the year, but like it was just a fun season. Playing in person every day and seeing everybody and like just, you know, like that whole aspect. So I actually do have hope that like if we can do that, if it's actually a normal year next year, everybody's here. We don't have like a Valkyrie situation or we don't have like a Warrior situation where they can't even get over. If everybody's here and we are playing in person for every single game, I have faith that it's going to be like, it'll be a good year. It'll be fun. It'll be good content and stuff like that. But the problem is that just has to happen, I think. So like I said, not everything is Hi-Rez's fault and COVID has fucked up a lot, but like Season 6 was amazing. And, like the old rival house and like hanging out with the boys there and like just playing in person, everything was really good. So here's to hoping that will be able to happen next year. Season 6 last season where I bought a house and didn't have time to play. I don't know about the meta. Actually, the meta was pretty fun too. You could play a lot of different stuff in solo and it was good. I also like the map. The map was just like bright and nice at least to watch back. When I watch back and like look at it, I was like, hey, the map actually is kind of cool to look at. But so yeah. Anyway, we're gonna play some PTS now.